Good evening, everyone. I am Cathy Hughes. I am the President of Newry Credit Union, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you this evening to our 59th Annual General Meeting. As you're aware, this year presented everyone with great personal challenges. We at Newry Credit Union have diversified into this online AGM format so that we can continue to serve you, our members, to the high standard you have come to expect. Notwithstanding this diversification, we look forward to welcome you in person next year. I now call upon our Secretary, Sean Hogan, to confirm that the meeting is quorate.
Okay, I can confirm that we are quorate for this meeting. Thank you. And I'd now like to propose the adoption of the standing orders, page 22 and 23, and please feel free to read them at your leisure. Thank you. Can I now ask you to join me in the Credit Union invocation? Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in the giving that we receive, it is in the pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in the dying that we are born to eternal life. Thank you.
A tribute to Peter Connolly, Founding Director, who we sadly lost during the year. Peter Connolly was one of life's true gentlemen. Peter was soft-spoken and exuded a calm demeanour. He never seemed to be in a hurry, and he never seemed to get flustered. Anyone who came into contact with Peter walked away feeling better about themselves and the world in general. As a founding director of Newry Credit Union, he was among a very small, illustrious band of people who wanted to help local people obtain credit at a reasonable rate. The early pioneers were committed to giving local people dignity in their financial affairs. This was in stark contrast to the doorstep lenders and local pawn shops. In 1963, the early pioneers of Newry Credit Union started with £15 in cash of their own money and were prepared to use that as a seed capital for a fledgling community initiative. This was motivated by altruism and not greed. They were committed to sharing financial resources so that the sum was greater than the individual parts. Peter and his lifelong friend and founding director, Arthur Morgan, rest in peace, Arthur, dedicated over 50 years of their lives to Newry Credit Union. Their contribution to the health and well-being of the general Newry area was acknowledged in 2015 when they were jointly recognised for their outstanding contribution to the Greater Newry area by Newry Chamber of Commerce. Of course, Peter's greatest contribution was to Newry Credit Union itself, and his legacy of 50 years voluntary service to the people of Newry permeates the very DNA of the organisation. Peter, we hope you and Arthur are reacquainted and are recounting your many happy credit union memories. We pray that Peter is reunited with his beloved wife Lillian and son Mark. We extend our sincere condolences to Sheila, John, Claire, Anne-Marie and the entire Connolly family. Rest in peace, Peter. Now can we observe a minute's silence in respect of all our deceased members throughout the year.
Ladies and gentlemen, a booklet which accompanies this AGM has been prepared. That is available for download from the website. At pages 24 to 32 of that bundle, you will find the minutes of last year's AGM. I am pleased to confirm that those have been proposed by Sean Hogan and seconded by Barry McGill. This time last year, we were blissfully unaware of an impending global pandemic and the impact that would sadly have on every facet of our daily lives. To the families who have suffered bereavement during the pandemic, we at Newry Credit Union extend our sincere condolences. Despite the havoc caused by COVID-19, I am extremely proud that we were able to continue to provide members with vital financial services throughout the year, whilst continuing to ensure your safety and that of our staff. Unfortunately, in light of the current public health restrictions, we're unable to welcome your physical attendance, but welcome your participation in this an innovative virtual format. We invited questions in advance of this evening's meeting, and those questions will be addressed during the appropriate part of the presentation. In addition, you were asked to vote for the dividend and interest rebate, distribution of surplus DBI resolution and the appointment of directors, supervisors and auditors. I thank all of those members who completed and returned their ballots to ensure that Newry Credit Union fulfils its legal and moral obligations. You will be pleased to know that unlike the US presidential election, there was no allegation of voter fraud. And I am delighted to advise you that we have had a very successful year and have continued to significantly increase our loan book since last year by continuing to provide high-value loans to individuals and local businesses. Unfortunately, however, the traditional loan book has significantly declined during the year. The income generated by our entire loan book enabled us to give a comparable dividend and interest rebate to that of 2019, which is remarkable given that we are in the middle of a global pandemic. I wish to take this opportunity on behalf of the board and you, our members, to congratulate our staff for the sterling work that they carried out this year in a very challenging environment. On a daily basis, our staff overcame unprecedented challenges, going above and beyond the call of duty and doing what Newry Credit Union does best, continuing to provide a high standard of customer services to all, but especially the most vulnerable and needy, who would otherwise have been disproportionately impacted upon. Finally, I would like to extend my thanks to the Board of Directors, supervisors and volunteers for their continued commitment to Newry Credit Union. I would like in particular to thank our CEO, Brendan Jackson, and our senior management for their continued assistance, especially their calm leadership and reassurance to the board, staff and members during the recent months. A personal word of thanks to the Executive Committee, who have continued to provide me with extensive support throughout the year in what were some very challenging circumstances. It is our sincerest hope that in 2021 we see the distribution of effective vaccines so that we can all look forward to getting back to doing the normal things we cherish. As I said earlier in my address, we at Newry Credit Union are extremely conscious of the impact that COVID-19 has had on our community, especially those who are the most vulnerable. We know that charity donations this year have been significantly affected by the restrictions placed on street collections. This year we have chosen as our charity the Larder, which is Newry's local food bank, and I'm pleased to announce that we are in a position to make a donation of £1,000 to their funds.
Good evening, everyone, and on behalf of the Directors, I am delighted to welcome you to this, our 59th Annual General Meeting, and it is with great pleasure that I present this report to the membership 57 years after the formation of Newry Credit Union. It's very difficult to remember what normal looked like before March, as the pandemic has fundamentally changed what we can and cannot do. Thankfully, the Credit Union's preparations enabled us to offer the same high level of service, but from remote locations. The Credit Union workforce diaspora was spread from Moorstrever and Warrenpoint to Dramara. Kitchen tables and spare rooms and hallways were all transformed into pop-up offices. Remote working facilitated by soft phones and laptops became the order of the day. In March, we had two immediate concerns to address: how to get cash to members who had no other way of accessing their benefits, and secondly, to facilitate members renegotiating their repayments due to a sudden loss of income. Of course, there were the inevitable teething problems, but under the direction of the senior management team and the dedication of staff working above and beyond their normal hours, we ensured that members' needs were met and in many cases exceeded. In spite of the harsh operating environment from March, we still generated a very healthy operating surplus. The Treasurer's report will provide details on the figures, but the fact that Newry Credit Union is in a position to provide an almost identical return to savers and borrowers as they received in 2019 is testimony to the financial strength of this organisation. Last year, we announced an increase in the level of savings members could deposit, increasing from £500 per month to £1,000 per month. And this was based on the expectation that we would be providing mortgages this year. There was no hint of a pandemic either. Unfortunately, we are still unable to provide mortgages, and COVID-19 has seen an increase in savings as a lot of members who had nothing to spend their money on began saving again. We therefore had to reverse this decision and have capped the savings limited at £500 per month. The health of Newry Credit Union can be illustrated by the continuing increase in the General Reserve. This is the funds to be relied upon in a doomsday scenario. The General Reserve figure as at the 30th of September 2020 is almost £8 million, up £270,000 on last year's figure. This is well in excess of the current statutory requirement of 8%. As we fast approach the end of the transition period, we are none the wiser as to what to expect from Brexit. As a border region, we could be adversely affected by a hard Brexit, and the political posturing at present serves no purpose, and we can only hope that a trade agreement is achieved in the forthcoming weeks and months. We extend our sincerest condolence to the family and friends of members who died in the past year. In particular, we would want to pay our respects to our founding director, Peter Connolly. Peter served as a voluntary director for over 50 years, and we are proud that Peter's daughter Sheila continues to represent the Connolly family as a volunteer on the Credit Committee. Deepest sympathy also was extended to Loans Officer Marion Connolly on the death of her father, Louis Auden. May all of our deceased members rest in peace. So finally, on behalf of the Board, I would like to thank the Chief Executive, Brendan Jackson, Finance Manager Louise Campbell, and their entire staff team for their dedication to you, the members. Staff are our most valuable asset. They are the face of Newry Credit Union, and their personal interest in the welfare of all our members differentiates us from other financial institutions. So finally, on behalf of the Board, I would like to thank you, the members, for your continuing loyalty to Newry Credit Union. We exist to serve you, and we trust that we will continue to do so in the future, whatever may happen. Thank you.
This is Directors Recommend, which is on page 5 of your booklet. A. This year's contribution to international projects will be calculated on the basis of £1 per member. B. Deduct ILCU affiliation fees of £1 per individual adult member. And C. Death benefit insurance is £21.89 for single accounts and £43.78 for joint accounts. And this is to be paid as an operational expense for those members with more than £400 in shares and a single account, or £800 in shares in a joint account. My report is on page 8 of the booklet. This year, it gives me great pleasure to present the financial statements of Newry Credit Union for 2020. Despite the unprecedented working environment that COVID-19 pandemic has presented, the financial performance of the credit union has remained strong this year, which has been achieved through the strategic decisions taken by our board and robustly implemented and monitored by our management team and staff. I'm going to cover the income and expenditure. So the income is found on page 38 of your booklet. As you can see, our corporate and high loan value loan book has increased, resulting in a loan interest received increasing by £232,808. I continue to reiterate that the credit union's assessment of these loans follows a rigorous process of application requiring high levels of scrutiny and approval from the credit committee before final board approval. Whilst our corporate and high value loan book has continued to grow in the year, we can see the direct impact of COVID-19 on our standard lending. Standard lending, unfortunately, has decreased by over £1 million in the last year, and we expect this trend to continue into 2021. However, we will continue to monitor it closely. Our other main source of income is from interest received from investments. This year, this has decreased by £61,410, which is a direct result of interest rates being at an all-time low. Correspondingly, the ongoing low or potentially negative interest rates adversely impacts Newry Credit Union's income, which in turn reduces the amount that can be paid to members in the form of dividend and interest rebate. Unfortunately, we expect our income from bank interest to continue to decrease in 2021. Additional income in 2020 was received from the Job Retention Scheme, or the furlough scheme. That was enabling the credit union to reclaim £54,747 in relation to staff salaries. Newry Credit Union has also successfully recovered £75,976 in loans written off, continuing its excellent track record. Moving on to expenditure, which is shown on page 55 of your booklet. The overall management costs have increased by £23,803. The main variations are as follows. COVID-19, which is a new cost centre with expenses of £13,312, was for additional equipment that was purchased to facilitate the increase of online transactions. Also, the premises had to be made safe for staff and members, which meant the erection of partitions and the acquisition of PPE. Cash security costs increased by £14,092 because we incurred additional charges due to the increased volume of online transactions that took place compared to previous years. We have since reviewed these costs and have negotiated a reduction in online fees going forward. Loan and insurance costs increased by £39,807. These are our highest items of expenditure in the year, and even though we have no control over the price of the premiums, the protection and the peace of mind it gives to our members cannot be measured in financial terms alone. Employment costs have increased in the year by £28,832. This is reflective of our new pay structure and restructuring of staff into Level 1, Level 2, supervisors and senior management pay scales, which will aid Newry Credit Union going forward, allowing us to attract and retain experienced, qualified staff in their key roles. All in all, the loan book has grown by 17% in this financial year, finishing ahead of projections, and is mainly credited to the increase in corporate and high-value loans, as previously mentioned. Shares also grew by 5%, and as a result, we have reintroduced the lower savings cap to £500 per month or £1,500 per quarter. This is to ensure that we maintain our regulatory requirements of ratios between levels of loans and levels of shares. Finally, this year has been another successful year for Newry Credit Union. However, it has also been incredibly challenging due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and in particular during the first few months, with staff having to adapt and work from home whilst trying to maintain and provide all our normal services. I would like to thank every one of them for their dedication to their roles and their efforts in successfully keeping Newry Credit Union open for business during this time. I would also like to thank all the staff who continue to provide excellent member services whilst dealing with the operational challenges that COVID-19 has placed on their day-to-day working lives and how Newry Credit Union now has to operate. Special thanks to Brendan and his senior management team, along with Louise and her finance team, who continue to drive the success of Newry Credit Union, especially during such difficult times. And finally, thanks to our auditors, Fitzpatrick and Kearney, who continue to perform their auditing responsibilities with great diligence and professionalism, and to the directors, supervisors and volunteers who give of their time so freely. Many thanks.
Madam President, Directors and members of Newry Credit Union. The Independent Auditor's Report is contained on pages 36 and 37 of your accounts. As you can see, it's a very detailed and comprehensive report encompassing all the requirements of international standards on auditing. However, I'm not going to read it all out. I'm going to read out the most important paragraph, which is paragraph 2 on page 36. In our opinion, the financial statements in all material respects give a true and fair view of the state of the credit union's affairs as at 30 September 2020 and of its income and expenditure and cash flows for the year then ended. They have been properly prepared in accordance with FRS 102, the financial reporting standard applicable in the UK and Republic of Ireland, issued by the Financial Reporting Council, and they have been prepared in accordance with the requirements of the Credit Union's Northern Ireland Order 1985. This report required 3 substantive visits during the year, as a result of which we found all the books and records to be entirely satisfactory. We'd like you to note that roughly £57 million worth of transactions went through the books in that period. And we followed the programme devised by the Institute of Chartered Accountants in Ireland. The idea is to ensure the integrity of the financial statements which you have in front of you, and also the underlying financial systems. The only other thing I would add is that in this time of uncertainty, with COVID amongst us and Brexit almost upon us, the directors have taken a very prudent view of provisioning in the accounts for doubtful loans and also for distribution of profits for dividends. We'd like to confirm that we fully support this, because the credit union will then stay in a very strong position to come out of these traumas when they end. Finally, I'd like to thank Brendan Jackson, Louise Campbell and all the staff of the credit union for the fullest cooperation which we received during each of our audit visits, as always, and also for ensuring that our staff were safe and indeed felt safe every time they visited the credit union during the pandemic. I'd also like to thank my own audit team, led once again by Brenda Hughes, for their diligence in enabling the audit to be signed off by 24th of October 2020. And I wish the credit union every success in the coming year. Thank you.
The declaration of the dividend. So as reported earlier in this year, surplus is 680,973. In light of the uncertainty surrounding the impact of COVID-19 and Brexit on local, social and economic conditions, the Board has taken the prudent decision to not distribute 140,000 of the surplus. This enables Newry Credit Union to pay a dividend of 0.25% and an interest rate of 16% to our members. We are also going to distribute 15,000 from the surplus to social, charitable and educational purposes. As a result of the member ballots, of which 299 were distributed, the dividend was carried by 293, the interest rebate was carried by 286, and the distribution for charities and educational purposes was carried by 290.
Good evening, everybody. It is hard to believe that this time last year no one had even heard of COVID-19. Of course, to some families this has been much more than an inconvenience. They have lost loved ones and did not have the normal human support afforded by the traditional wake and funeral. To all the families of deceased members, whether due to COVID or not, we extend our sincere condolences. The arrival of COVID-19 precipitated a change in the way we delivered our services. During the period from March to June, we had to close the premises. We apologise for any inconvenience to members, but the decision was taken to safeguard the health and well-being of members and staff alike. We invested heavily in scaling up our online service capabilities to ensure members had access to their benefits and savings and to apply for loans. Although there were initial teething problems, we remained focused on delivering the optimum level of service to members. The closure of our offices and the move to remote provision of services accelerated the growth in online services. In the past 12 months, we have seen a 28% increase in the number of members registered online for online services. In the past year, we've received 23,587 debit card payments. This is a 3,000% increase on the previous 12 months. Since reopening the office to members in June, we had to take decisions on reduced opening hours, opening later in the morning, closing at lunchtime and closing earlier in the afternoon. We acquired personal protective equipment, PPE, for all staff and provided hand sanitising stations for member use. The social distancing measures of 2 metres and limiting the number of members in the main service area to 4 at a time were introduced in the interest of members and staff alike. There was a conscious decision to close the loan section to members to reduce the possibility of cross-contamination and for contingency planning in the event of an outbreak of COVID-19 among staff on the front counter, thereby enabling us to be in a position to serve from the mall entrance. Although the loan section is not open to members still, loans are being distributed online and through the post. I would like to assure you that behind the scenes, Newry Credit Union is still working as diligently as ever to provide you with the highest level of service. Up until March and the first lockdown, Newry Credit Union was having a bumper year. Our standard loan book exceeded £20 million and our high-level loans exceeded £12 million. However, since March, we witnessed our standard loan book plummeting by £2 million in 6 months. There was a certain inevitability in that decline, given that our traditional borrowings were halted. Communions, confirmations, Easter, weddings, holidays and so much more. The higher value loans were not being repaid as quickly and therefore sustained the loan interest throughout the full year. Last year, we had high expectations that we would be able to offer mortgages to members. However, our application for a variation of permission had to be withdrawn. Since March, our priorities changed, and it is unlikely that we will be devoting substantial resources to reapplying for mortgage permissions until the third quarter of 2021. In last year's annual report, we talked about introducing an online decision engine to help members apply for loans and to be approved online. Like everything else, the work on this initiative stopped between March and June. Thankfully, we've been able to resurrect the project and it is in its final test phase. We are hopeful that within the next few months it will be operational and will assist members in applying for loans and also improve their credit rating and therefore the chance of being approved for a loan. Small Change to Lasting Change, a local area partnership. Small Change to Lasting Change was a joint initiative with Newry Credit Union, Advice Newry Morning Down and the Confederation of Community Groups, and was sponsored by Money Advice and Pension Service. The basic tenet of the programme was to help financially squeezed, those people just about managing financially from day to day, to help them build up a rainy fund, to help them cope with an unexpected bill or an unforeseen financial problem. The programme was designed to help people save a little and often, review their expenditure, investigate social security benefits that they may be entitled to, and also signpost to other community, voluntary and statutory agencies, should they be experiencing other medical or mental health problems as a result of financial problems. Again, unfortunately, the pandemic interrupted this programme also. We have subsequently redesigned and relaunched the programme. We would encourage any member experiencing financial difficulties to engage with this programme. We're delighted to be in a healthy position, financial position to reward our members by declaring a dividend and interest rebate this year. However, due to the prevalence of COVID-19 and the associated health risks to members and staff, we are unable to pay these out in the office. We would encourage all members to use our online facilities and to join the 6,000 members who can transfer the dividend and interest rebate to their bank account. We currently have 3,000 members paying their accounts by direct debit, plus a significant number of members paying by recurrent debit card. We would encourage you all to contact the office to arrange for payments to be made directly to your bank account. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all my staff on the professional manner in which they discharge their duties and uphold the values and ethos of Newry Credit Union. I would also like to thank the directors, supervisors and volunteers and the support they provided me throughout the past 12 months and for their vision and commitment to ensuring that Newry Credit Union has at its heart the welfare of staff and members alike. On behalf of the entire Newry Credit Union team, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you, the members, for your loyalty and trust. The report of the Nominating Committee to the Annual General Meeting, 27th November 2020. To the Board of Directors. There were 4 vacancies this year in the Board of Directors. 5 nominations were received. There were a total of 299 votes cast in total, received by postal vote and electronically. The 5 nominees were Kevin MacDonald, Daniel McKevitt, Colette Rafferty, John Rooney, Conor Smith. I wish to confirm that Kevin MacDonald received a total of 285 votes, John Rooney 290 votes and Conor Smith 285 votes. All 3 are duly elected. Daniel McKevitt and Colette Rafferty did not meet the quota of 50% plus 1 and therefore could not be elected. 1 vacancy remains on the Board of Directors and the nominated committee will be tasked with filling this position during the next year. Nominations for the Supervisory Committee. There were 3 vacancies this year on the Supervisory Committee. The 3 nominations were received. There were a total of 299 votes cast and the 3 nominees were Raphael Crummy, Claire Lambert and Ida McConville. I wish to confirm that Raphael Crummy received a total of 285 votes, Claire Lambert 284 votes and Ida McConville 284 votes. Again, all duly elected. Position of Auditors. The Board recommended Fitzpatrick and Kearney as auditors to the membership. Again, there were 299 votes cast in total. I wish to confirm that Fitzpatrick and Kearney received a total of 280 votes and are duly reappointed as auditors for the forthcoming year.
Good evening, everyone. The Supervisory Committee is an independent committee elected directly by you, the members, and we work to ensure that Newry Credit Union operates in your best interests. We have a duty to report our activities and findings during the year to you at the Annual General Meeting. In this regard, we are delighted to advise your credit union is being managed with the highest level of professionalism by the Board of Directors, management and staff. For the past 3 years, some of the functions of the Supervisory Committee have been outsourced to PGM Accountancy, who work alongside the Supervisory Committee to ensure that a robust and efficient internal control environment is created. This provides an added level of reassurance to members that internal controls are being independently monitored and that any potential areas of concern are quickly identified and recommendations for improvements are made. PGM continue to carry out their monthly audit of Newry Credit Union for the whole of the last credit union year, although because of COVID-19 they did so remotely during the period from March to July. In total, PGM carried out 60 tests of risks over 9 different areas of the business as follows: fraud, capital, strategic, cyber, credit, HR, non-standard and trading entity loans, liquidity and operational. We are pleased to report that as of the 30th of September 2020, PGM categorised 97% as substantial and the remaining 3% satisfactory assurance. This year we were delighted to welcome both Ida McConville and Claire Lambert to the Supervisory Committee. Both bring a wealth of valuable experience with them. From the overall review of relevant material, we are delighted to report that there is no indication that policies and procedures within Newry Credit Union are not being followed, and we are happy to concur that the Board of Directors, management and staff of Newry Credit Union are working proactively and diligently on your behalf at all times, acting in your best interests. The Supervisory Committee would like to thank the Board of Directors, the Chief Executive and his capable and willing staff for their ongoing support. Thanks also due to PGM Accountancy and external auditors Fitzpatrick and Kearney Limited for their professional advice and assistance. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the reports of the various subcommittees can be found in your online booklet. The report of the Risk Assessment Corporate Governance Committee can be found at page 13. The report of the Insurance Subcommittee can be found at pages 14 and 15. The Credit Committee at pages 16 and 17. The Credit Control Committee at page 18. The Membership Committee at page 19. And the Educating and Marketing Committee at page 20 and 21. We invite you to take some time and read them at your leisure. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to, on behalf of the Board and staff of Newry Credit Union, thank you for taking the time to attend at our first virtual annual general meeting. We hope to see you all in person next year, and all that remains is for me to thank you for your attendance, wish you a very happy Christmas, good night and stay safe.